Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. Today, we have a very, very special guest. My guest has been around this sport of mixed martial arts for such a long time. He's fought in the UFC. He's fought in Pride. He's a former WEC champion. He's one of the most dominant Strikeforce champions that we've seen. He's original member of the Skrap Pack. And now he's teaming up with Scott Coker to do a little promoting Fight Night 3, San Jose, going down. He is the one, the only, Mr. El Nino Gilbert Melendez. Gil, what's
Hey
going on, man? How
man,
you doing?
oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm actually here in Santa Cruz and gonna head back home to San Francisco in a bit, man. But life is good, can't complain, man. And thank you for that introduction. That was a good one.
Awesome, man. So, yeah, you're getting ready. Big Fight Night San Jose 3 contest going down next weekend. Coming up here really, really soon. Some great talent on this card. You know, you have an amazing main event with Bobby Sharonio III, Lake G. You have the return of Chris Cyborg Santos to the world of boxing. You got Jessica Rose Clark on this card, as well as so many others. You know, you've been doing this whole thing with Fight Night for a little bit now. What's made you want to go into the world of promotion?
Man, I've during the pandemic, I really started focusing on coaching and training, and I started building a team up of fighters. And there were some shows in the Bay Area, but just not enough for the MMA ecosystem. So I started looking into doing a fight show, and of course, I call my old promoter Scott Coker, and he's always been a voice of reason, a mentor, and always giving me great advice. So I started trying to pick his brain about doing a fight show. And, of course, in his head, he had something as well, not that I knew of. But, he said, Gil, why don't we team up? Let me show you the ropes. Why don't you team up with me? I'll show you how this is done. And you can really learn the sport and you can really learn how to promote. So, man, of course, it was a no-brainer for me. The goal, though, for both of us is to build back that Bay Area ecosystem. There's some fantastic Bay Area fighters, some Bay Area talent. They just don't have those platforms to really perform and to develop and to continue to pursue the careers of MMA. And we want to make sure these Bay Area fighters can still continue to pursue their dreams of becoming a mixed martial arts fighter. And they need a show like this to do it. So that is where it all stemmed from, and that is the goal.
You know, it's kind of crazy to think how the sport has evolved in the last 20, 25 years. I mean, you were a guy, you started doing this before it was cool. You started doing it before it was crazy mainstream, especially in the United States. At one time, man, people were calling this human cockfighting. People thought if you did this, you belonged in prison, and it wasn't legal in every single state. And it was really the wild, wild west back then, especially for regional shows. When you were younger, maybe amateur fights, early pro fights, do you remember seeing any sort of regional shows where it was like maybe unsafe fighting conditions, fighting in bars, barns, no medicals, mystery opponents? Have you seen any of this crazy stuff?
Oh, absolutely, man. That's so funny you said that. So my very first two fights were technically amateur. It was the IFC, and we actually call it the Barnyard Beatdown because some of my friends went, and it was literally like I think like in a rodeo like bar like in Ione, California, outside of Jackson, and I fought twice in one night. And I mean, man, I mean this was as beginning of the stage of MMA as it comes, like you show up, they match you up. I did two fights in one night in the tournament, technically amateur, paid me some cash out there. And, man, I got to tell you, though, it was an amazing experience. It felt like level one of a video game. And my life has been this like video game of level one, level two, level three. And this is like the level one I own, the barnyard beatdown, with my friends called it. But literally, it was like a rodeo practice pen where they ride the bulls and everything. And they just set up a cage in the middle, and everyone was watching us and cheering us on and everything. And it was actually a really good time. Jake Shields cornered me. One of my friends went out there with me. So it was a really good experience. I will say that. But man, it was the beginning. It was the beginning of it all.
You know, it's kind of crazy now to think that we have all these other different regional promotions now trying to provide pathways for these guys to get to the big shows where they can do this in a sanctioned environment and be treated and act like professional athletes in this day and age. You know, I think you guys are no different. I think this main event that you guys have is the perfect testament to that. I mean, you have two undefeated top prospects here. You know, you have Bobby Sharonio III, guy who done some Bellator actions, fought on the big stage. Then you have Lake G, 7-0 undefeated guy who actually has beaten one of Bobby Sharonio's teammates, Terrence Saturn, put the first loss on his record. So there's a little bit of unfinished business there, I think, from the Cerrone camp. Is this the perfect fight, you think, to really showcase what you guys are from the term of trying to create talent and get them to that next level?
It's spot on, Carlo. Exactly. This is the fight we are, what we are excited about, and these are the types of fights we're trying to make. In these regional scenes, you'll see guys build up that 5-0, that 7-0, yet they want to test an O versus O, or they want to test themselves against that real talent, or roll the dice and take that risk of losing. They're trying to patent records sometimes, and right now, we can't let that happen. And the only way for these guys to roll the dice and take that real risk is to create a platform that's risk take worthy. And that's what we are creating. Hey, man, here's a huge stage for over 4,000 people to watch you. Here's a big stage the whole Bay Area is going to watch. Here's your chance to show out and show you're the best in the Bay. So we're trying to create that place where it's risk take worthy. And this is the fight to show it. I admire Lake G coming from hostile territory 7-0 and beat one of Cerrone's guys to take this fight. We went to go spend some time with him. Man, this kid is a hard worker. He's seems like that blue collar, just works hard, wrestler, grinds forward, throws big combinations, and just outworks his competition. And on the other side, you got Vallejo's flashy, Hawaiian Kempo style of fighting, the Shotokan. And he's out there doing spinning kicks and dominating people out there, and has a huge following, and he's also taking this risk, so you got two different styles, amazing fighters. One of the O's has to go. That's a cliche thing you hear in the sport, but to really take that risk and put the O on the line, and for Bobby to take that risk, for Lake G to take that risk, is what it's all about. And that's how we elevate, that's how we win, that's how we lose, and that's how we grow.
Obviously, you see many regional promotions have great prospects up there, some great matchups. But I think what's making this one, stand apart a little bit. I mean, you guys literally have a GOAT on this card. Chris Cyborg making her return, boxing, taking on Precious McRae here. Now, that is something you don't really see too much in all these other different local promotions, is big name flair like that. What was the process like of getting her on this card?
Well, I got to say, first thing, Chris Cyborg is an amazing businesswoman. To be able to be a PFL champion and to be able to travel to all kinds of organizations and grab these championship belts. So it says what kind of businesswoman she is, and she's played her cards right. So to be able to pursue boxing on her downtime, is something amazing that she's been able to negotiate in. So we're taking advantage of that, and her great relationship with Scott Coker. I got to give him the credit on this one, to bring her in and to provide her a place to box. And for her, she's trying to pursue that boxing career. I think she wants that fight with Clarissa Shields maybe down the line. But we got her the right boxing fight against Precious McRae, who's 4-1. So, I got to give Scott Coker the credit on that. But I've been a big fan of Chris Cyborg. We respect each other quite a bit. We fought on the same card. She actually beat Gino Carano when I fought Ishida for my championship. So she's a fan favorite of San Jose because she's participated in the fight shows out there. So it's a special moment to have her. And for the first time on our fight night card that we do in a ring, we have MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and now boxing. And boxing is something I really wanted, so I feel like Scott kind of brought that there, and now we're opening that door to boxing. Hopefully this isn't the only boxing fight we have here.
I feel like, there's so many people obviously that watch the sport in this day and age, and now you have a lot of the casual fans, which for the MMA traditionalists, the people who've been watching this forever, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow sometimes because, it's attention to it. It's eyeballs on it. It's paydays for the fighters. They don't really understand it as much. Sometimes crazy takes, and you have to be like, oh, what is he saying? But I really feel like this is a great strategy in showing casual fans and fans in general that there's more than just one aspect of martial art, which is MMA. I feel like people think of MMA and just instantly think MMA is UFC. They have a promotion and they kind of get it mixed up with the sport in itself. But being able to show Muay Thai, being able to show kickboxing, boxing, as well as the MMA all in one night, do you think that is a good strategy, on better raising awareness of martial arts in whole for the community in LA or California?
I really believe that. I do believe that. I believe the audience is ready for this step. I think MMA exploded on the scene. There was boxing, Muay Thai was starting to get momentum, and all of a sudden MMA blew on the scene and no one really cared about anything else. But now that the fans and spectators education has gone off the, it's gone up tremendously. They understand what wrestling is. They understand what jujitsu is. They understand what the Muay Thai is now, and they've always known what boxing is. So now we can kind of isolate the dimensions and give people their roses and let them shine in the dimensions they are great in. And why not one day have the boxing champ, the MMA champ, and the Muay Thai champ? Maybe that person has been born who can hold all three of those championships, maybe a grappling championship, all in our card. And I think we just come to that point in our sport where all our fans recognize there's dimensions to mixed martial arts and we could appreciate each dimension. You got Zuckerberg training jujitsu and MMA. You got him talking versus Elon. You got the casual person training jujitsu and becoming a warrior. You got gyms that have Muay Thai in it. Like it's becoming very mainstream. And I'm super excited and happy that I've invested into the sport, not only as a promoter, but as a gym owner, and the knowledge I have in it and the years I've put. You can't just buy that. That's years of experience I put into the sport and years of experience people are starting to gain from watching and partake in the sport and understand the dimensions. So I think as it evolves and as the spectators and the fans evolve, they're going to appreciate this more and more. So I think this is where the sport is headed, in my opinion.
Absolutely. In this really day and age, if you want to be a high level fighter, if you want to fight in all these different big, huge promotions, you really have to be doing this year round. The days of fighting, stay on the couch for 2, 3 months, that's over. You're part of a legendary group called the Skrap Pack. You guys, I think you, Jake Shields, the Diaz boys, and the others really are the first ones to show anywhere, any place, anytime, stay ready. All you guys did was stay ready, getting ready for the fight. How did that group all come above? And, from the instant, as soon as you guys all met, as soon as you guys started doing this, do you really feel you were part of something special?
Man, I know I knew I was, and if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready, man. And we stayed ready year round, and it was a special group, and I thank God all the time. We just the same work ethic, the same hunger, the same willingness to push as hard as we did. We'd get some crazy scraps on, but afterwards we can high five, we can be brothers, we cannot take it personally, and we actually were loyal to each other, never wanted to fight each other, and just lifted each other up and just went on this journey together. And Jake is someone who taught me is this is like you said, it's a year-round sport, and it's super important for someone to win a big fight. And I'm teaching my guys this. My guy Hyder Emil at our gym, he does this great. Yeah, you just won a big fight. Yeah, you get your week or two off, but they're right back in there helping their teammate get ready for their fight. Not sitting on the couch, just like you're talking about, not for 3 months, but getting back out there and helping the team out, helping the community out. Yes, it's an individual sport, but you're only as good as your training partners. You're only as good as your stable. So we were always lifting each other up, always giving back to each other, always staying in the gym. And honestly, because we love it. We love it so much, and we're in there. And I'm still in there to this day. I'll be in the gym eventually. By the end of this conversation, I'll be headed back over there eventually. That's where I love it. That's where all the magic happens. And man, I do feel like I'm blessed to be in that circle, and we still hang out all the time, me and the boys.
I first started watching MMA in 2005. Obviously, the first season of Ultimate Fighter had a lot to do that with me. But one thing that I really loved, there was a time that in addition to the UFC, there were other great promotions, WEC for a while, Strikeforce, to me, Strikeforce was one of those promotions. I don't think it got the credit and the attention that did mainstream while it was going on. But, you really made a name for yourself. Did you take a lot of pride in representing Strikeforce at that time?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I've always try to chase the better business deal than maybe the limelight. And I actually was able to sit down with Scott Coker, and we had some dim sum, and he signed me. And I just really like what he stood for. I really felt like he cared about the fighter, and I feel like he had a vision for myself and for the organization. And he's someone I wanted to get on board with, so I got on board with them. So yes, I took pride being a part of the very first legal MMA event in California. California wasn't legal in California until 2006, I believe, was the first event. And I got a fight on that card. It was a sold out arena. Scott Coker promoted it. Frank Shamrock versus Cesar Gracie. I was on it. Kung Lee was on it. There was some pretty cool people on there, and yeah, that was my first one. And I think I have plenty of records. And so many times I was like, I was ready to challenge for the UFC championship, not for myself, but Strikeforce versus UFC. And I think by the time Strikeforce got bought out by the UFC, Strikeforce versus UFC was heads up was, we won that. I think we damn near would have won that. And I my first, championship fight in the UFC was, coming straight out of Strikeforce against Benson Henderson. And I still believe I won that fight. And that's the one that hurts me all the time. I say it all the time, but yes, man, a lot of pride in what we built in Strikeforce, and really happy to be in the Bay Area fighting amongst my community was the best. But I also got to travel to Nashville. I also travel to San Diego, but just being a part of this organization and feeling like a family member and feeling like I had a say in my career. Really enjoyed that, and really enjoyed the journey with Strikeforce. It gave a lot to me and tons of fighters.
You've had many great contests in your career, some rivalries. One of them in there that sticks out is the Josh Thompson rivalry. Looking back at it now, what do you make of the whole thing?
Man, dude, I mean, I think it's 25, 50, damn 75 minutes with that guy, and you can't help but respect the guy. He's the punk. He'll always be the punk. I'll say Josh the Punk Thompson's the punk for a reason. And I'm so happy I got the 2-1 on him. I'm 2-1 on him. So every so often I'll remind him via, text or via, some sort of social media post, and, give him a little nod and let him know. But, man, we had some wars. We really put it on for the fans. Some people say it was the best trilogy ever. I won't argue with them. It's just amazing to be a part of history and to give the fans what they came to see, and to be in the history books and just leave it all out there. And my second fight with him was very important to me. It was a huge win for me, and for my mental, and how much I dedicated to the sport and reinventing myself. And it was just a great moment in my history. And man, what a legacy we had together, me and Josh Thompson. Who knows, man? Maybe we'll have to do a grappling match soon or something.
Another big contest for you in Strikeforce was obviously Jorge Masvidal, a guy who would then blow up and become one of the biggest recognizable names in the sport, a guy who even was doing battle with Nate last year still, doing their things. Looking at it now, when it happened, could you see that Jorge had the chance at that time to be a big figure in the sport?
Absolutely. Jorge was doing great things already. I knocked out Eve Edwards in Japan, just beat KJ Noons before that. I was watching I was the championship. I'm watching JZ Calvacante in there. I'm watching Josh Thompson in there. I'm watching all these guys battle each other to climb the ladders to fight me. And it's not that Jorge wasn't the man already. It just, he was the man. In fact, he was a really great fighter then, just didn't get the recognition he deserved, and didn't have the platform he deserved, and didn't have the breakout fight moments that made him get to the next level. Oh, the knee into Asker and those things, elevate you quite a bit. But I knew he was a tough cholo already. I saw him doing the backyard brawls, and I was like, oh, this guy's a gangster for real. I already knew it. So. And I saw how good his boxing was, and I prepared tremendously for him. And I still think I got the best version of him, and I still think I was super ready for that fight, and it was a great fight. A lot of boxing, great combinations. And I think I stumped him with my striking. I think he expected a lot more wrestling from me. I prepared strongly in the striking, and he wanted to wrestle me. I almost choked him. He said, "You know what? I'll go back to the boxing." So it was a interesting fight, because I feel like we were playing chess about how to approach the fight before we even stepped into the cage. And I think we were kind of both surprised how it played out. And it was a great moment for my history books. And I go back, man. I was a great fight. I was a little bit injured on my back, but I was ready as can be for that fight.
You've had so many great moments in your career. One that I feel like is my absolute favorite, and I'm a little biased on it. So for my 18th birthday, one of my presents was the pay-per-view UFC 166. You, Diego Sanchez. I mean, one of the greatest fights I have ever seen. Me and my buddies watching it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Couldn't believe it. Looking back at it, man, what do you make of that?
Wow, man. First of all, man, it's amazing to be part of the history books on that one. I feel like my legacy lives forever because every so often I'm going down my feed and people are looking for inspiration and they're watching our highlight video. I'm like, shoot, man, I'm looking for some inspiration today. And thank you, Gilbert and Diego. But man, it was an amazing fight. You got two Mexicans who only fight forward. They don't fight good backing up. In fact, I don't think we know how to fight back. Why don't you move? We're not very good at we like to fight, so it was a perfect recipe for some hardcore MMA fighting action. And it was my opportunity to get my first win in the UFC. I really wanted that moment. And man, I left my heart out there. Diego left his heart out there. The fans were going crazy, man. The back and forth action. Man, it was a great time. I was happy to be able to hear the crowd stand up, to see everyone go crazy. And while you're in it, you're just like, you're in the zone, so you don't recognize what's going on. I do recognize when he dropped me, but I was like, oh man. And what it just felt amazing to be in there, to again, man, to just give the fans that energy, to give you, Carlo, that energy on your birthday, and for you guys to go wild and enjoying it, and to remember that moment. That was your birthday, 166. Like, these are like forms of payment that people don't understand, man. Like it's not about the green, it's not about that. It's like, I'm having an impact on the MMA community, and that's my goal now. I want to continue to have an impact. I want to bring that energy back to fighting, and and I want to continue that.
A matchup that was supposed to happen but never happened if he was obviously Habib Nurmagomedov. A lot of fans, including myself, was really excited for that one. What exactly happened there? All these years removed. Can you share what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So after I fought Diego Sanchez, my contract was up. I had a great contract that they bought from Strikeforce, that my lawyer and we had it had an expiration date. I think as they acquired Strike Force, they didn't, probably didn't see what my contract was at the time. So I had put myself in a great place. I think I was the uncrowned champ at the time because I just fought Benson, and my next fight after that was Diego. I just put on an amazing fight, and I feel like I had pocket aces in my hand for the first time in my business career. So they put me on a poster to fight Khabib, but our contract wasn't done. I really wanted that fight. I think at that time I was ready, and I think I could have surprised him. And I think Khabib hasn't really fought the best grapplers, people who know how to get off the bottom. L.A. Akinta was one of them. Gleason Tabel was one of them. Those are guys who know how to grapple, not only wrestle, but grapple, know how to technically get back up to their feet. And it can be done with Khabib. People don't think, oh, you can't get off a bottom. No, you can. It's happened before. But long story short was my contract wasn't negotiated yet. And they threw me on a poster, tried to rush me into a fight. I said, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. Nope, that's not what's happening right now. I need a championship fight. I need more money. I need this, this, and this. And that led me to doing the Ultimate Fighter TV show and going to a straight title fight with Pettis out there. So that's why it didn't happen.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Lyoto Machida once told me there's three aspects to a career for any fighter, and I want to get your take on this. He told me the first one is the build stage. You have to get yourself there. The second stage is the conquer stage. You go up there, you make a name for yourself, and the third part is the share stage. Do you feel like at this point in your career, are we in the share stage?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, of course, if there was anything, it's a very selfish time when you're fighting. And me, eat, sleep, train. I need my wife, my daughter, everyone is at my team. Everyone has to sacrifice for me. Man, it was awesome, but I appreciate it, and now I'm at a time where I have young fighters. I have this new promotion. I need to give back to them. I need to give them a platform, you know, um, and that's what they need. They needed it. I had help along the way. People need help along the way. You can't do this by yourself. So I'm just trying to have a bigger impact, not just with my team, but with the community, because that will help my team. If my team has better competition and we lose because you're better, we go back to the lab and we get better. But in order for my guys to grow and my team to grow, so does all the teams in the Bay Area need to grow. So yes, I'm in a giving part of my fight career. Don't get me wrong, I've been doing a lot of giving the last 4 years that I might need to give to myself somewhere down the line, and give myself a treat, and maybe do some grappling or a boxing fight or something exciting like that against another old timer, not a young buck. Like I said, a gift to myself. But yes, I am in that giving stage in the MMA career. But I am, I can't act like I'm not trying to learn this promoting game, and I am hungry to be a competitor in this game as well. I'm not just doing it for the community. I am doing it because I would love to conquer this. I'd love to throw a great party. I'd love to be the guy, who has a platform for these gladiators and treats them as well as Coker treated me.
Absolutely. So many people watch the sport and, they look at the big names. They look at the Jorges, they look at yourself, Anthony Pettis, all these people, and they see the fame, they see the glory, they see the fortune, they see the bright lights, and they're like, wow, being a fighter is the greatest life ever. Man, battling it on the regional scene, a lot of guys are losing money. You're not making millions of dollars there. A lot of guys have to have that 9 to 5 job, throw a kid in there, throw a wife in there, stay up late, wake up early, pay to train, do this every single day, maybe for the chance to have a chance to fight in a big promotion, be successful like yourself. Obviously you've been through all these sacrifices. You had roller coaster highs, lows. What is it like to be able to help your guys that you train with at your gym, the guys in the promotion, battle through these sacrifices?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And here's what I always give to them. As a fighter, you self critique. You're super hard on yourself. You lose a championship fight and you feel like a loser, but you're like top in the world, and you don't even recognize it. So, I let my guys know what they're already doing is you're a small percentage already. Walking in there and challenging yourself, man, you're already a winner. Some of the fights they've already had, I was like, man, no one could ever take that away from you. Some of these fights are amateur, but I'm like, man, that was an amazing fight. You can play that at your funeral for crying out loud, And some of these guys have fought, they've had amazing fights and just came up short on the cards, and they're down. It's like, do not be down. And do not let anyone out there be down. They're not fighters. They don't know. You're talking to a champ here who's telling you you're a badass. Don't forget that, And I think a lot of guys forget that. They forget I was like, hey, man, they think they're not a badass because of it. They think they're not a badass because of it. And sorry about that. And I try to lift them up and let them know. It's like, listen, man, this is part of the journey. You're great. You're a stud. Keep on going. So, I like to just kind of lift them up a lot and let them know you guys are studs, because fighters are hard on themselves and they want to quit. Also, I tell them this is a long journey. I said, you got to wait, commit for 5 years, and then reassess. But don't expect that in 1 or 2 years, you're going to have all this success. Like, if you really want to do this, commit for 5 years, reassess, commit for another 5 years. It just doesn't happen overnight, So, I talk about the commitment, the discipline, but I also let them know, man, this is all part of the journey. Enjoy the ride. The lows aren't that low. Ride the highs, and you guys are amazing for just doing this already, and so that's what I like to do for the youngsters.
While you're doing big things in the promotion game right now, you mentioned competing, something still comes on the mind. The right opportunity presents itself, maybe go out there and do it again. You're in a position, you don't have to fight. I mean, let's be real. You don't have to do it. So many other guys who have had great runs don't have to do it, but it's like the only thing they know. They can't bite that itch. Masvidal once told me this is the most addictive drug there is. You just can't scratch it, from the training, the preparation to the fighting. What makes this where like just guys can't stop doing it?
Man, it's a great high. It's what we do, and it's super hard. But at a moment, it's like, man, you get to this moment, and this is how you make your money. This is how you make your money. So a lot of times we're chasing that money, and I would say at the end of my career, that's what I was doing. I was not fighting for the love and for the excitement. I was fighting, just clocking into work, clocking out, not really excited about it, and that becomes, I think, a problem, But I will say is, if you sit down, if I could give myself advice, is like, you don't have to fight. Take some time off, until you really, really want to, but that paycheck's there. And I guess I am a winner for cashing in some paychecks. I did it for my family, but, I still think, like, you gotta love and you gotta be wanting to be in there to do it. You know what I mean? And if you want that, who am I to say to retire and not to do it? If you still have the love and the drive, go for it. Don't do it when you don't love it. And are you kidding me? Like, I'm in a position where I don't think I have to, but still want to do it. I got the itch, man. Just like everyone else, we're warriors and we want to prove it. We want to show we're our optimal selves and that we're still kings and everything. So, it's a tough one to move past, but I think as a person who has momentum in my gyms and momentum in this fight show, it's easier to kind of step away. All right, it's kind of easier to step away when you know what the next chapters in your life are looking. I know my new fight, and all of the older fighters, I don't think they know what their new fight is. And until they learn what their new fight is, because we're fighters, we need something to fight for, then you're kind of hung up on fighting still. I don't know, man. That's just my assessment.
Do you think it's safe to say in one capacity or another, you're going to be involved in mixed martial arts, whether it be promoting, training, coaching, forever?
Heck, Carlo, man, I am trying. Everyone says, "Oh, Gil, you're doing this." Like, listen, I'm just trying to get into these fights as closest to the cage, as closest to the ring as possible, without coming out of pocket, man. This is where I want to be right here. I've fandangled my way into being front row last night in Alife. I fandangled my way to being front row for our fight night show and being able to have fighters on there and everything. So I say it that way, but I'm working my ass off really hard every day, every time, because I love the sport. I love the fighters and I love it. I'm a fan first, and yes, I want to be in this to the day I die. I still train, Carlo. I love training. I the first one in the gym and the last one. I will be forever, right? You've never had to convince me to go to practice. I talk to parents like, what do I tell my kid and how do I get him motivated? I was like, listen, like you can't, they either love it or they don't. Don't force your kid to do it, like I don't know. I don't know the answer. My dad just showed it to me and I haven't looked back. I woke up at 6 to train. I trained at lunch. I trained after school. It's like I love it, and I still love it, and I try to train more. I wish I could train more, but life takes different directions. But as much as I can train, I love to train, and I try to do it all the time.
Absolutely. When you first started getting into this back in the days of the Wild Wild West, the really early days of the sport, would you ever envision we were going to get to a time where all these regional promotions are out there, all these different promotions, as many people are watching it as of now, and you're going to be having the opportunity to make an impact, grow the sport on a big scale in California?
You know what, man? Carlo, I knew the sport was gonna take over. Like I just couldn't imagine how much it would take over, how big it would be, how huge these events would become that you see everywhere, and how many shows happen in California week, how there's Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing. It's just I can't even keep up anymore. It's just so much, karate combat, bare knuckle, there's one FCP, there's just so much out there now. I mean, I just couldn't imagine it. I knew though that man, this was gonna surpass everything. Like everyone's gonna love this stuff, but I just couldn't imagine how big it would become. And it's amazing to see where it's at and where it's still headed. I think it's about to evolve and hit that next step of not just MMA, but just more martial arts.
Absolutely. All right, Gilbert, last question for you, my friend. We're a week out. Why do fight fans need to tune in? Why, if they're in California, do they need to buy a ticket May 17th for Fight Night 3?
Listen, Fight Night 3, Texas Arena, San Jose, California, May 17th. Get your tickets on Ticketmaster. Let me tell you, man, this is going to be an action-packed night. We got the best of the Bay Area rolling the dice, taking the risk, and it's an amazing party. It's beautiful in there. This place holds 5,500 people. We have a VIP bar. We have VIP seats. It's truly an experience, right? We are in the fight business, but we are truly in the entertainment business, and we're here to entertain our fans, make a great experience. Great people out there too. You got samurais, Muay Thai people, community, MMA community, and MMA fans, and it is some Bay Area love and a Bay Area party out there. It's a great time. I'd love for everyone to come and experience it.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Gilbert, man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me. It's an absolute honor. And I want to thank you because if there wasn't guys like you who paved the way and went through all the craziness, the sacrifices, the crazy fighting conditions back in the day, we wouldn't have this opportunity for now guys to grow up, learn jiu-jitsu at 7, 8 years old, and have the dream of being a UFC fighter and being in these promotions and a lot easier and more ethical and athletic way now. So thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Carlo. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed the conversation, man. Well, hopefully you have more of them.
Absolutely. That's it for us today. I'm Carl Prusa. He is El Nino. He is Mr. Gilbert Melendez. Check out on May 17th, Fight Night 3 in San Jose. Peace.